All right. All right. Today we are doing stargazing entertainment of the 50s.
Yes.
Yay. All right, here we go. All right. Hopefully you can hear me over the classroom. All right. The 1950s made you feel like there was nothing as important as fun. Okay? From cars with fins to skirts with poodles. The whole decade seemed to have a breezy air about it. The 50s, they seem to have taken place on a sunny afternoon that asked nothing of you except a drifting belief in the moment and its power to be satisfied, said one writer. Very poetic writer, apparently. The fins on the cars they're talking about, if you ever take a look at old cars, and we're going to pull some up as we go through it. Yeah, they did. That was a big thing, that you had the big fins. They look like a Batmobile. I mean, the old Batmobile is about what they looked like. Yeah. And sometimes, yeah, they would come up, they would go out. Yeah, they really did. They did look kind of like the Batmobile that was on the TV show, the really bad TV show. The poodles on the skirt, they come about poodle skirts. It was, honest to goodness, like the hoop skirts, and they would have a poodle, sewed onto it, a little poodle dog. Yeah, but that was they were known as poodle skirts. What put the 50s era in the mood to party? The answer was simple: money in the bank and the end of World War II. Okay. Fears of not having a home or enough to eat had been left behind in the dirty 30s, okay, the Great Depression. The grim war-torn 40s had ended with an Allied victory. And as the 50s dawned, people plunged into fun as if it was a refreshing pool on a hot summer day. I don't know who wrote this, but boy, they sure did use a lot of
Tony Lee
euphemism.
Yeah, I was going to say Tony Lee.
All right, so, well, I don't know her, though, what I'm saying.
It might be.
It could be.
Could be an
Most of the time, a guy does not
No,
spell Tony
it's
with
a
an
James
I.
Charles.
Ladies and gentlemen, it was a rhetorical question.
Yes.
Okay? And for those of you that don't know what that means, it just said, I threw that out. I really does not, you like that? I do not need your response from everyone in this class. Because you don't know either. Okay? I know it. It's amazing to think you don't know something. TV took over as a favorite from a form of amusement. U.S. families began the decade with 10.5 million TV sets. Okay, they cruised into the 60s with about 40 times that number. What? Week after week, people laughed at the sitcoms like I Love Lucy, Ozzie and Harriet. They also tuned into a variety of shows hosted by the likes of Milton Berle. Milton Berle was known as Mr. TV. He was the first guy to have a TV show. Okay, he was Mr. TV. And Ed Sullivan, we'll watch a little bit of some clips of both. Ed Sullivan, back in those days, he can make a star out of you. If you were on his show and you got good reviews from him, you pretty much was on your way. Okay?
That's a good impression.
50 kids spent more time in front of their TV than in school. Okay. Now, see, y'all don't do that. You spend more time on your phone than you do in school. All right, up a little bit, if you would, please. All right. The actors that people saw on the small screen every week became stars. The earliest TV stars appeared in a variety of shows and in westerns. Roy Rogers and Gene Autry made the switch from films and joined James Arness and James Garner in TV westerns. Now, Roy Rogers, he was the king of the cowboys. Okay, his horse was Trigger. Had a dog named Bullet. And he was the good guy. He was a singing cowboy. Gene Autry, if you ever heard the original Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, that was him. He was the guy that recorded that originally. Okay, but he was also a singing cowboy. Lucille Ball and Dennis Arness became stars in their weekly sitcom. Ricky Nelson was on Ozzie and Harriet. He was the youngest son of Ozzie and Harriet. he turned his back on acting and actually became a musician. With a number of hits in the 50s and early 60s, and traveled and played up until he got killed in a plane crash going to a show. Okay. Let's see, where were we? Elvis Presley. I'm going to show you some films. He hit the big time with his appearance on TV shows. Presley's hip swiveling, sensuous delivery of rock and roll songs alarmed the TV executives. In 1957, he appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show, and they would only film him from the waist up. And I'm going to show you. I got film clip. I'm going to show you what he was doing that in 1957 they wouldn't show on TV. No, it wasn't that. It wasn't anything like that. It wasn't anything like that. It wasn't anything. There was nothing dirty. Nothing that can. Yeah, he shook his hips. He swung his hips, and that was it. When he sang and played his guitar, he swung. He swung with the music, and they would only show him from the waist up because that was scandalous in '57 to show something like that on TV. Now, think what you see now on TV.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Television's popularity caused a crisis in the movie business. Why go to a stuffy theater when you can have hours of top entertainment being directed to your living room? Movie houses started to close by the hundreds. Then came the heyday of the drive-in movie theaters. Okay, drive-ins have been around since the 1930s, but in the 50s, that's when they really took off. People got liked that idea of an outdoor theater. And the number of drive-ins in the U.S. grew from about 1,000 to nearly 5,000. I told y'all before, that was my form of entertainment growing up in the rural North Carolina. Okay? We had a drive-in. And every Friday and Saturday night, you went to the drive-in in the summertime. That's what you did. Cost you 50 cents a car, not a person, a car to get in. Okay, they would play a double feature, the same movie Friday and Saturday night, but that's okay because you didn't really go to watch the movie anyhow. You went to hang out with your friend. But the way you listened to it, you pulled up, and there's a pole with two speakers, one on each side. And you would pull up and park in your parking spot, and you would crack the window, and you'd reach out and you'd get that speaker, and you would hang it on your window. And it's about that big, nice and clunky. And half the time they didn't work real well, but you would try to tune it in, and that's where the sound came from.
My
Okay?
fans were all
And
would
you
all
would
be
go-
down in like
Well, because you wanted everybody in the car had to be able to hear, man. Okay? But half the time you weren't in the car anyway. You know, say you was out roaming around.
or you're
doing
just sitting
other
on the
stuff.
roof of the car. Like,
But, and people did that too. People sat on the hood of their cars, leaned up against the windshield. I had no pickup truck. I'd take my pickup truck and put a lawn chair in the back and sit in the lawn chair. Yeah.
backs in.
You could buy popcorn. You could get a big drink and a popcorn. You could have a big, big evening, and it would cost you $1. Okay? Yeah. And then we used to leave on Saturday nights. The little local hot dog stand was called Bantam Chef. And I think I told y'all this. You would go down there, and they would have 10 hot dogs for $1.
Oh my God.
10 hot dogs for $1. Now, here's the deal. You would order them. You would order your 10 hot dogs, and they would wrap them in the wax paper stuff and put them in a bag, and you would walk to a table somewhere to eat. By the time you got to your table, the grease on those hot dogs would have ate its way through that bag almost. I mean, the Bombac bag would just be covered in grease. You didn't have to chew them. Man, you could just get them started across your lip and just swallow them whole. They were so, I mean, there was some greasiest hot dogs you've ever eaten in your life. But every Saturday night, that's what you did. Yes.
How much were bills back then?
How much was what?
Bills.
What kind of bills?
Like house bills.
I don't know. I'm,
You said
$50.
But, yeah,
your house that your dad bought after the war. He said it was $5,000, and the mortgage was $50.
$50
And he
a
was
month.
worried he could pay it off. So
Yeah.
it's probably gonna be low.
Yeah.
America.
Yeah, I mean, power bills, things like that. I mean, I told you before, my mother, 5 kids, if she dropped $25 at the grocery store in a week's time, she thought she'd been ripped off. Okay? Yeah. Why is what popular? Drive-in? Because people love being the outdoors, the outdoor theaters, things like that. Good? All right. Now, here's another thing they would do. Drive-ins have many advantages over movie houses. Teenagers love drive-in movies. They could attend in groups. They could chatter and move around during the movies. Saturday nights gathering at the drive-in gave kids a chance to admire each other's cars, catch up on who was dating who, all that mess. Families like the drive-in theaters too. The parents could put the kids in their pajamas, put them in the back. The kid would fall asleep just due to the fact it was late. And then when they got home, they just carried them in and put them to bed. At the drive-in, cars were parked in rows facing this huge outdoor screen. Individual speakers piped sound right into your car, and that's what we were talking about. And it talked about if you could resist the tempting snack bar ads, you could enjoy the movie without ever leaving the vehicle. But where's the fun in that, right? So you don't want to do that. So you would go and you would get some popcorn and soda, and they'd have candy. I mean, they had a full snack bar, but it was a building, and it was this building, and the building is what was showing, had the projector that was showing the movie. Okay, that was also part of that. Okay, so it was just that one building housed everything. Okay. Actually, the ads might have been awfully tough to resist because theaters were actually accused of flashing hidden messages in the ads that made viewers feel hungry or thirsty. Okay, this was called subliminal messaging, okay, or suggestion. It is considered an unfair way of advertising. We're going to talk about it just a little bit. Did hidden messages cause people to buy more snacks? The question is still being debated. But the idea was you'd be sitting there watching a movie and just for a one frame, it would show you a picture of a Coke. And then you would, and it would go, and then they might show you popcorn. But your eye never saw that, but your brain picked it up. Okay? So they were advertising goods during the movie that got you thinking, a Coke would be good. Okay? That's what subliminal is. Okay? It happens so fast that you don't even realize what you've seen. Okay? I don't know. I don't think it's ever been proven that they did it, but a lot of people says they did. In any case, the film industry began to take off. The 50s became the golden age of Hollywood. The big screen painted a different picture of the 50s life. However, movie plots were darker, more daring. TV, the good guy always won. There was no doubt about it. The good guy was going to win. The good guy was going to get the girl, the whole bit. The movies were a little bit different. It was probably a little bit more realistic, perhaps. You had stars like Marilyn Monroe, who offered something quite different from the wholesome family fare of TV. You had James Dean. He was the first well-known teenage rebel. His roles reflected an inner turmoil that wasn't found on the TV shows like a Leave It to Beaver. I'm sure most of you have seen Leave It to Beaver at some point. Oh man, that's a great show. You need to watch that. The ants mix of the dreaded, ancient, and confusing Dean brought to the screen seemed to tap into a vein of restlessness. He actually gets killed. He made 3 films, and all 3 of them were hits. He was on his way to being probably one of the biggest movie stars of our time. And he was killed in a car crash. Okay. All right, up just a little bit more. Miller. Oh. All right, popular music produced another galaxy of stars in the 50s. Jazz and the big band sound were smoothed out over a more mellow, romantic style. Singers like Frank Sinatra. You ever heard of Frank Sinatra? Oh my gosh. Crooned his way to the top of the pop charts. Let's see.
Wait,
You
what
had
is?
you had the soulful black rhythms and blues. You had rock and roll was coming onto the scene at this point in time. Okay, and rock and roll would dominate popular music for a while.
AC/DC, like,
You had Buddy Holly and the Crickets. Okay, they were the first star of the new rhythmic music. Elvis Presley, of course, became the big star. James Brown. Okay, you got it. Please, you've seen James Brown routine, right?
oh my gosh, yes.
You got to see James. I got to show you some James Brown now. Parents were lured by the sensuous rhythm of rock and roll, performance like those of Elvis. Didn't do anything to reassure them. Many adults felt that the music. Hey, I'm talking. Hello. Many adults felt that the music was a slap in the face to the family values. So rock and roll, parents at the time did not particularly care for rock and roll music. Okay? Rock became the voice of rebellion against the square moral values of middle America. Other media began to reflect this trend away from the traditional values. As the 50s starts to fade, the restlessness beneath the surface of society becomes a rumbling, and the rumbling becomes a bore. And then the 60s really does. By the time we hit the 60s, this guy or she talks about how the 60s erupt. They do. The 60s.
Make love now,
The
war.
60s is a very, very crazy time. Okay? All right. I hope you got something out of that. Goodbye.
Braxton,